Hi friends, it's been a long time since I've done a video because I keep thinking about recording the process of a creative project. When I asked in the Instagram broadcast channel, Playgrow Connect, what you wanted to see on YouTube, a lot of people said sort of projects start to finish, whether that was ceramics or sewing, tours of things that I've made, tours of how I organize things in my house. And I love all of those ideas and will do them, but I have to finish some projects and sort of tidy my house before I start giving more tours. And also I'm pretty scattered with how I complete creative projects. I sort of bounce around a lot, and I have started recording many of them and just haven't finished the projects yet. So instead of continuing this sort of absence from YouTube, I thought I would talk about, do a little GAB sesh, another one, and talk about books, because that is a question that I got. How I choose books, what are some of my favorites, and boy do I love this topic. So obviously we're going to start with The Artist's Way. I've done a whole separate video on this. I talk about this in my Prioritized Play workshop. It is so impactful and I love it so much, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this. Next, in terms of self-help, I hate that term, first of all. Self-help, it is helping yourself, taking action, taking steps toward improving yourself and how you feel about yourself and your approach in life. Personal growth books, I guess, is how I prefer to refer to them. The Artist's Way is absolutely one of them. Other sort of creative practice books, I eat those up. So if you have any recommendations, would love to hear them. One that I finished recently that I really liked, it wasn't necessarily geared toward creativity. I'm showing you as if there's something on the cover. This one is called 100 Ways to Change Your Life by Liz Moody. And each chapter is very brief, like 2 to 3 pages, but she interviews experts, doctors, therapists, people in all of these sort of health and wellness fields on very actionable steps, small actionable steps that you can take to improve your life. And I really marked this one up. I really liked this book, and it was a quick read, and you can kind of refer back to it whenever you're sort of needing a little boost. Other sort of nonfiction books, I've talked about this on Instagram before, but Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle, I loved this book. It was pretty dense. It took me a long time to get through it, but I really loved it. It talked a lot about sort of how our society makes it really easy for women especially to burn out, sort of with the emotional labor side of things, with the what they call the bikini industrial complex, just like teaching women to hate ourselves and how we can start to overcome that. So I really liked this book. The back says what you can do to complete the biological stress cycle, how to manage the monitor in your brain and regulate the emotion of frustration, and how the bikini industrial complex makes it difficult for women to love their bodies, and how to defend yourself against it. So highly recommend that book. Other nonfiction, self-growth, personal growth, self-help books. This one is definitely much more toward the realm of poetry. Young Pueblo on Instagram. This one is called Inward, and I really liked a lot of the excerpts from here. Let's see which ones. I always mark up my books. I really love to refer back to them. This one's great. Questions. Am I being honest with myself? Am I allowing myself the space to heal? Am I being compassionate and patient toward myself when I'm not meeting my goals as quickly as I intended? Am I doing what I need to do to thrive? And I feel like that's a really great sort of synopsis of how I do a lot of reflection and move forward and take tiny pivots in my life. So any of his books I really like. There is one that I haven't read called Lighter, I think, so that's on my list. And then switching into gears in the realm of fiction, I read a lot of fiction books too. I have this sort of approach to reading In the morning, I have a morning ritual. I feed the cats, I make my coffee, I clean the kitchen. I'm a morning kitchen cleaner. And then I sit in my chair, I do my morning pages, which is a practice from the Artist Way, so morning journaling. And then I sit and I read. And a lot of times I tend to read nonfiction in the morning. So I'm reading books about creativity, workbooks, kind of working through mental blocks or creative blocks, things like that. And then in the evenings or at meal times, because I live alone, I eat alone a lot, I'll read fiction. And if I'm doing an audiobook, it's usually fiction when I'm doing chores like cleaning or mowing the grass or things like that. So nonfiction in the morning, fiction at night and throughout the day. And when it comes to fiction, I love a lot of stuff. I love lit fic, contemporary fiction, but I also really love romance novels. So I have been crushing through all the Emily Henry books. There is a fantasy romance author that I've been reading since I was 18. I remember going into a bookstore in my tiny local town and looking for like a vampire book because it was like recently post Twilight era. And obviously I loved the Twilight books as a teen. So I found this book and it was called A Hunger Like No Other. And it's by this author, Kresley. This is one of her books, not A Hunger Like No Other, but I have read every single book in this series, and I think there are like 20 now. And this series is called an Immortals After Dark series. So they're fun, they're funny. I like learning about sort of like the mythology and the different sort of mythical creatures like werewolves, vampires, Valkyrie, things like that. It's fun. And obviously I've read the Sarah J. Maas books. Those are all great. Definitely recommend those. As in terms of fiction that is not romance, I love sci-fi books. Michael Crichton is my favorite author who wrote Jurassic Park, the book, in case you didn't know it was a book. And I love Michael Crichton books because he used to be a doctor and then became a novelist. And he writes about science in a way that is like, oh my gosh, this could actually happen. Like, I know we all know the story of Jurassic Park where they're trying to bring back dinosaurs from DNA and they make mistakes, they make human error, and it's the catastrophe. But he also speaks to like human greed a lot in his novels, and this how he writes about science is so cool to me. And so I really love his books. Jurassic Park is great. I probably read this once a year, and then the sequel, The Lost World, also a novel. But I like all of his other books too, the ones I've read. He has a book that is called The Andromeda Strain, which is about sort of a bacteria an alien bacteria that comes in. The Terminal Man, where I feel like it's like super early AI. I think his books were written in like the 70s and 80s, maybe 90s. Like Jurassic Park, the movie, came out in 1993, so yeah. And unfortunately Michael Crichton is dead, so there's no more to come from him, but I really like his books. So as far as how I find my books, I think that was a question that somebody had. I mean, the normal places, Instagram, people sharing. There's a local bookstore near me that has a bunch of cool people that work there and give recommendations. I really love to just go into a bookstore and browse, like wander around, find a cover that's appealing to me, because of course I buy things based on the aesthetics, and sometimes they hit and sometimes they don't. I also recently just joined a book club at that bookstore, and I'm using that as an opportunity to kind of push myself outside of my comfort zone, because yes, I read a lot of nonfiction, like creative self-help, personal growth stuff, and I read a lot of like sci-fi and fantasy stuff, but I'm not reading a lot of sort of acclaimed authors, and that's okay. And also I would like to broaden my perspectives. So I think there are a lot of you know, independent bookstores that send out newsletters with recommendations, new releases. Ask people. I think that's a great way to connect with a person. Ask, what's your favorite book? What's the last book you read? What's the last book you hated? And just be okay with trying a bunch of stuff, which is my whole life motto beyond just books. So that's a quick little video on my book recs. And if you're not subscribed to the newsletter, I do give an entertainment section update every 2 weeks with all the books that I've read recently and kind of like a very quick summary. I am currently reading The Creative Act by Rick Rubin, and I'm also reading the latest Emily Henry novel, Funny Story. So I'll keep you posted on those. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your patience with my inconsistent posting. I hope to finish some of these creative projects that I've started and share those with you, but I'm happy to hear your thoughts on what you would like to see from me in the future. I have a little bit of travel coming up, so I know that the packing and strategizing for packing videos are always requested, and I'm happy to share that. And I know that organization, as far as like all of my creative projects, my clothes, my collections of things, how I organize that in my home has also been brought up a few times. So those are for sure coming in the future. But as always, please like, subscribe, share, save, and comment if you have thoughts. Would love to hear what your favorite books are, what books you've hated recently. I'm always looking for recommendations. I do try to read a lot and I really enjoy it. So thank you for being here. I hope you have a great rest of your day.